Kim Daniels. We live at the lake. We've lived here for about 10 years. We were originally from Columbus, and we moved here from Westerville, Ohio 10 years ago. We have three boys, Justin, Nicholas, and Brandon, and 4 grandchildren, Carson, Noah, Ava, and Wyatt. Well, I was raised Catholic, and Randy didn't really come from a church background. I was never, as a Catholic, was never encouraged, whether this is everyone's experience or not, I don't know, but my experience is I was never encouraged to read the Bible. I didn't know Jesus. I knew of Jesus, but I didn't know Jesus. You know, life was, we've both been married twice, so this is our second marriage. He was married for 1.5 years prior, and I was married for 11 years. And no discredit to Randy, but you know, had I known the Lord the way I know now, a divorce would have probably not been something I would have considered. Back then, I was more about what I wanted. I wasn't happy. We had issues. Apparently, you know, I didn't work through them. And with Randy's case, his wife, you know, was not faithful, and that marriage ended because of that. But our focus was ourselves. We were selfish beings, just trying to get through life and do what you see the world doing. That's where we were. It wasn't until 2003 when things started changing for us a little bit. We had bought our first house together. Our youngest was 10 months old when we moved into this house, and life was good, you know, trying to live the American dream, the nice house, and spending too much money, more than, you know, not taking into consideration anything really but our desires. And my brother and sister-in-law had moved to Florida, and they had found a church in Florida that they really liked and were attending. And through that process, Lisa, my sister-in-law, she would contact me, give me scripture to look at, refer me to Christian bands and songs to listen to, which really helped me. And my brother introduced us to some people in Florida that he had met through a network marketing company. And in that process, Randy developed a good relationship with a couple of the people in that business, and one of them became his mentor. And he was a Christian man. Through that, he got a lot. He got a lot through Joe. And he was always encouraged to put God first beyond everything else. And so in that walk through there, as our youngest, Brandon, got a little bit older, it was time for preschool, and I would take him to preschool. And we were living in Grove City at that time, and I would pass this Vineyard church. And I just felt drawn to this church, and I kept telling Randy, you know, I feel like we're supposed to go check this church out. And, you know, of course, we're not always great listeners, so it didn't happen right away. But I think within a few months, we were on our way to church, and we absolutely loved it. We attended that church for a while, and Randy and I and our two oldest, Justin and Nick, we were all baptized, and that was 2005. After that, life really started getting crazy. I found out I was going to have another baby, and then I lost that baby. Then Randy found out his company was downsizing and he lost his job. And at that time I was staying at home. I used to sell insurance, but Randy, he and I both wanted me to be home with Brandon as he was getting, he was little, and the older boys, there's a 10, 12 year difference between the youngest and the oldest. But I enjoyed being home with kids. I got to be home when the older ones were little as well. So he took on, I gave up my insurance business, and he took on a paper route. And so he was working 2 jobs. I mean, he would get up at 3 a.m., he would toss papers. I would help him on Sundays, and I would do the billing. And then he would go to work at 7 a.m. and work a 8-hour job. And then we were trying to build a networking business in the evenings as well. So he was constantly on the go. And so he had a really hard time dealing with us. And he went into a depression. It took him 9 months before he found another job. But before that, a few months after he lost his full-time job, they changed the paper route thing, and we were doing 500-600 papers on Sundays, and they downsized that to 90 papers. So our income just went downhill. So we ended up having to file bankruptcy, and this devastated him. He was embarrassed and felt like, he was a failure and not a good provider. And so it really did a lot of damage on his psyche, and put him in a depression. And so in that time, I decided to try to find a job. I went and applied for a chiropractic job, or not in an office, and got hired right off the bat. And then the next day they called me and said they changed their mind because I had no experience. So then I talked to my neighbor, which this is part of how the Lord works. I mean, that's not what I was supposed to do. My neighbor said she knew a lady that was cleaning and that needed some help. And I was like, okay, fine. Give me her number. I called her, started immediately, worked for her for a few months, and then I decided to go out on my own. And that's how our business started. So I started creating a clientele. And so fast forward, we lost our house, we lost our vehicles, trying to find somebody to rent to us, because who wants to rent to somebody that's, doesn't have anything. Randy was on his way to a job interview and passed this house, and we called it and found out that they knew our neighbor. And so we applied for the home. The lady told me that she had already 5 other applications. And I'm like, okay. I said, I hope I don't sound mean, but I hope it doesn't work out for any of them because we really want this place. And it was a week later, she called and she says, well, we've picked you. And I was continuing to clean. He landed a job, and a year later, it happened again. They downsized and let him go. And so he calls me and he says, hey, Kim, how would you like to add carpet cleaning to your cleaning business? And I'm like, why? He says, you're not going to believe this, but yeah, and it happened again. He says, I'm really sitting here thinking, maybe we ought to just do our own thing. And I said, that's fine. I don't know nothing about that, and as long as you're doing it, you know, we'll figure it out. But we didn't have any customers. So because of the network marketing company that we had been involved in, and gave him the confidence to go out on his own, gave him the confidence to go, and he started a networking group with 7 people at Panera Bread in Dublin. He grew that networking group to like over 250 people. And so this is how we promoted our business, and it grew. So through all of this, we found Jesus, and I'm reading my Bible and I'm praying. Randy's really just living life and going through the motions. We didn't really pray together. There was no reading the Bible together or anything like that. He was still focused. I'm sure he was praying to some degree, but I can't speak to what his relationship was with Jesus. And as life goes on, things get busy, and you get in the rat race. You get wrapped up in everything. And life was good, business was growing. It was the end of 2010, beginning of 2011. We were running and gunning so hard, and we were exhausted. No vacations, no time off. We were and trying to do 3 things. And we ended up going to Hocking Hills for our anniversary, and we hadn't been away for a night, let alone a weekend. And there was no internet, no phones, no nothing, just us. And so we did a lot of talking and a lot of resting. And we decided that we were going to give up a couple of those things and just concentrate on Steam Green. So we had made that decision, which was not an easy decision to come to, because we were very passionate about everything. And I guess that was a good thing, because it was 5 months later, my mom had a heart attack. And she had already been diagnosed with an aneurysm in her stomach. And she lived on the other side of town. So I was always worried, because I wasn't closer to her, because we'd always lived very close to my mom. Well, she made it through. I told her, I was like, you have to come live with me, because I don't want to walk in your apartment one day and find you. And so I think she was so scared too, for her own safety, that she agreed. And so she moved in with us. And she lived for 9 months, and she died at the kitchen table with me and Brandon, my youngest. He was 12. And that was very hard for him to go through. After that, he, a year later, he suffers a lot with anxiety. And he had a major attack a year later that put him down for 8 days. In that time, I found out I had a goiter growing, protruding out of my neck, and I went to the doctors, and my thyroid was totally whacked out. And That was 2013. And I went to the doctor and I did a lot of praying. And I'll tell you, that goiter went away. It was gone. I mean, they took me in to get an ultrasound. And they were like looking to see what they were trying to ultrasound. And they're like, no, everything's good. So that was a rough year. 2014, things just took off. It was off the hook. And we didn't know which way was up. So we're trying to get through 2014, and we were very, very blessed. And we were supposed to have Christmas with his mom and dad, and they were sick with the flu, so they canceled Christmas. And so,
just a minute, I just go. Okay, yes, okay.
Did I miss something?
No, I just okay.
So 2014, December 26th,
Yes.
his dad dies of a heart attack. And so we go over, the paramedics come and get him. I follow them to the hospital. His mom is handicapped, so she's sick with the flu. And his dad passed in the ambulance before they got him into the hospital. I get back from the hospital, his mom has a heart attack. We call the squad, the same squad comes back to pick up mom. And so she was in the hospital for 10 days. And she had multiple health issues. And she's handicapped. And this is how the Lord works. Justin is now working with us. His mom is in a situation she cannot take care of herself. Because of Justin, we were able to keep our business going. Me and Justin kept the business going while he was taking care of his mom. He basically lived with his mom for a good 6 months. He took her to over 150 some or more doctor's appointments that year. And had it not been for Justin, we would have not been able to do that. So Paul and Lisa, my sister-in-law and brother, they moved up here to Indian Lake in 2014. And in 2015, we had come up to visit. In 2015, my birthday's in February, came up on my birthday. And they're like, you guys should come up this summer and spend the weekends on our camper. And so we did. And we went because life had been so crazy. We came up every weekend in the year 2015, the whole summer, and absolutely loved it. So we bought a boat. Paul and Lisa had a boat. We wanted to get a boat. We got a boat because we all got lots of kids. And then we're like, well, we had contemplated buying a place maybe in Lake Erie. And we thought, well, they're here. We should just buy a place here. So we started looking for a place. Found a place in September. We found it in August. It needed to be handicap accessible because of his mom. He wanted to make sure mom could come. And the man who sold it to us gave us one heck of a deal, and he was dying. I think he had only had the sign in the yard for maybe an hour. We got to see it the next day, and we made an offer. He accepted right off the bat. And I was like, that was too easy. But, and then so that was 2015, 2016, his mom passed away. And so we're living life here at the lake, going back and forth. We finally sold our house in Westerville. We weren't going to church. We had tried several churches around the lake. Nothing was fitting. I don't know. Maybe we were just too picky. And ultimately, I guess that's really the thing, because you're going
To church.
yeah. I mean, I think maybe we had too much emphasis. We wanted a good worship band. Because we were going to a church in Westerville, and they had a very good worship band. But it's not all about that. Yeah. So, anyways, we did not find anything right away, and he was insistent on finding a church. I was like, I have this relationship with the Lord. I don't think I need a church. And he disagreed with me. So which isn't the first time. We disagree a lot. And through that time, Randy has a heart attack in 2017. At a parking lot in Virginia on our way home. And I did not know it was a heart attack at the time. He's having chest pains. He would not let me take him to the doctors or the hospital because we didn't have insurance. He didn't. So we sat in this parking lot for 2 hours before I finally drove home. It was confirmed that he had a heart attack a year later when he had another heart attack in 2018. The only reason he survived was because his heart grew extra vessels for the veins to go through, or the blood to flow through. 2019, for me, myself, I was building a relationship with the Lord that I had never had before. It was amazing. I was very dedicated. I wasn't willing to give up my mornings with him, and I could hear him speak. Things changed for me. And I did spend a lot of time on YouTube, because Randy's had his heart attacks, was also diagnosed with his diabetes at that time. We're trying to change our diets and eat right. Well, in this time frame, he had a best friend that was in Columbus, and he was also a big part of Randy's faith, because Ken always encouraged you and prayed. Ken and Joe?
Yes.
Yes. Ken and Joe were his big supporters for always praying and keeping him in prayer. And over those years, when we gave up the networking groups, and the relationships kind of dissipated. And his best friend went down a wrong road. He was a great man who loved the Lord. And he made some really bad choices and followed some rabbit holes that just led him in a very dark place. And he wanted nothing to do with Randy anymore, which broke his heart. And he started turning to his neighbors. Well, the neighbors, they like to drink and party and have fun. And so Randy's slowly starting to drink and party, you know, just, I didn't say party, it was going to the neighbors and drinking beer, and wasn't helping me the way he used to help me, and we were fighting more and arguing, never seeing eye to eye on things, and it was just a really rough time. So, we would always, I don't know, we went through a really rough time, and I think we faked a lot. Because you don't want people to know. And the enemy works that. So we had, you know, trying to muddle through, and I'm praying that nothing's, I'm getting discouraged because nothing's happening. And we decided, okay, you know, a distraction. We're going to travel. Let's put our house up for sale, and we're going to buy a fifth wheel. And we bought a fifth wheel, and then we put our house up for sale. We were working on it, and we had a pole barn that we had built a few years prior, and we spent a lot of time over there, and that's where we parked our fifth wheel. And so we spent a lot of time over there, and in that time frame, things are good, and things are bad. I mean, things are like really bad. Things are good, and things are really bad. And Randy turned into this person that I didn't like. I'm trying to remember. I think it was before you lost your eyesight that one night you just hit the ground. Because that was in August of 2021.
Okay.
And he was done. He cried out to the Lord. But through all that, that stress, I think Randy had a mini stroke, because I looked at him, and I thought his face looked a little bit different. Nobody has confirmed this for me, but he started losing his vision in your right eye? In your right eye? Yeah.
Right night.
Yeah. And so we went to the eye doctor, and he has an inflammation disorder, so they're blaming it on that, but nobody could confirm this stroke, or a mini stroke, or 1 and 2, I don't know. So things are getting better. 2022, my niece, Amy, 2021, invited us at Thanksgiving time, November, to come to Grace Church at BGC. And Randy had just said he wanted to take a trip.
Yeah.
And so we took the camper and went away for a couple weeks for Thanksgiving. And I said, well, we'll go, but we'll go when we get back. Well, we got back, and then, I don't know, we were back 4 days, and he wanted to go away for Christmas. So we went away for Christmas, and while we were in Florida, we were supposed to get up that day. It was New Year's Day, wasn't it? We were coming back home.
Yeah.
And he lost his sight again. And so we're scrambling, trying to find an eye doctor in Florida. Long story short, we got the care he needed extended our stay for a couple of days. Well, then the weather was really bad here. Didn't want to drive in the weather, tried to avoid the bad weather. So we ended up going to, where'd we go? New Orleans
Yeah.
for Mardi Gras. Wow. That was interesting. That's all I got to say about that. And then we headed home from there. And so we found BGC. It took us a month after being back before it was the night after, it was the Sunday after night market that we came and started going to BGC. And we absolutely loved it. And so that was, we kept going to church, and things were getting everything's getting much better. We sold our house. We still have not hit the road. Now we're going to a church that we like and we don't want to leave. So we decided to take a month's trip, and so later in 2022 we took a month's trip, which was fantastic. And it was 2023 when the Lake Campus was going to start. And Randy was very, very passionate about wanting to be here to do that. He didn't want to stop. He was all over this lake at every place trying to promote BGC or the Lake Campus. And then 2024 rolls around and we're very excited because we're getting ready to start a grace group at our place. And we have everybody over for my grandkids, and everybody's watching the eclipse on April 8th, 2024. It was a total eclipse. And I remember Randy watching the eclipse. He was just, you were in awe with that eclipse. You just kept making comment after comment of how cool it was. And I'm a nurse wreck with the kids, making sure, no, but don't you look at that without your glasses. Because that's just who I am. And it was a great day. Until it wasn't. 6 a.m. The next morning, I find him on the floor in the bathroom. And he was so cold. I thought I lost him. So I called 911, and they came and got him. And I'm waiting for our son to come, Brandon. And we go meet him at the hospital because he was unconscious. I wasn't sure I was even going to see him alive again. And I walked in the room at the hospital, and I knew immediately he had had a stroke. That was not on my radar. I thought, if anything, he died of a heart attack. And but his whole right side was compromised. And he had had a blood clot in his heart that had broke off and went to his brain. And they flew him to OSU to have surgery. And it's definitely changed our lives. I wasn't angry. I was angry at Randy. I wasn't angry at God yet. I just kept praying. And he was in the hospital for 11 days. And then he was in rehab for like 6 weeks. He should have been in longer, but he was done. And in that time, I was mad at God. I was done. Thankfully, it didn't last long, because I had never yelled at the Lord before, ever. I would be frustrated when we went through some rough times with our relationship. I was very frustrated and didn't understand why the Lord was allowing us to go through that. But it was very short-lived. I think I was only angry with the Lord for about a week. And I just heard the Holy Spirit say, you know I'm here. And I got this. And and from that point on, I'm like, no, I am not letting the enemy steal my joy again. And not that we don't have bad days. And the enemy is always at work. Always at work. I mean, even through this, he's always putting things, untruths in your head, trying to poke and gouge at you to get you riled up about something. And what really annoys me the most is that I fall for it so many times, over and over. So I don't care how long you've been a Christian and how much you love the Lord. The enemy is sneaky, and he is real. But we are stronger. And we will get through. And we just got to keep sometimes reminding ourselves, and other people too have to remind us, because sometimes we're too stubborn. I know I've fallen in that. And the Lord's not done. And we got a road ahead of us. I mean, Randy's come a long way since a year ago, but we're not where we was hoping we'd be. But
Yes.
It's where we are. And regardless, the Lord's gonna get us through, and he's got a plan. And we just have to be obedient. The biggest lesson I've learned through this is I'm not in control. And obedience is key. And I still stink at it. But I'm still trying. We're still trying. We ain't going down without a fight.